Emily Parker never thought a simple winter evening could turn into the moment that shook her heart. She had been planning a quiet night, hot cocoa, soft music, maybe a movie with her boyfriend Ryan. She wanted something calm, something warm, something that reminded her that even with life's chaos, love could still feel like home. But that night did not give her the comfort she had hoped for. Instead, it handed her a feeling she wasn't ready to face. She had just stepped out of her apartment building to grab the scarf Ryan forgot in her car. The cold air rushed against her cheeks, and though the wind made her shiver, she felt light knowing she was doing something small and sweet for him. They had been trying to reconnect for weeks. Work stress, missed dinners, tired conversations, everything seemed to pull them apart in ways she didn't know how to fight. Returning his scarf felt like a small chance to show she still cared. With the scarf in her hand, she climbed the stairs toward their apartment on the 3rd floor. The building was quiet the way all older buildings tend to be, long hallways. Warm lights and that faint creaking sound that comes from wood that has seen decades. Emily knew every step, every turn, every sound. She and Ryan had lived there long enough to feel like they were part of its history. But as she reached the 2nd floor landing, she paused. Ryan was there. She didn't expect to see him in the hallway. She thought he was home, maybe taking a shower or working on his laptop like he usually did. Instead, he was walking slowly down the 2nd floor corridor, checking his phone with a look she hadn't seen in a long time, focused, serious, like he was heading somewhere important. Emily leaned into the shadows before she even understood her own instinct. She wasn't trying to spy. She wasn't trying to catch him doing something wrong. She just didn't want to interrupt whatever he was doing. And she certainly didn't want him to think she had followed him. But then she noticed the direction he was walking toward the end of the hall, toward a door she had only seen once. Hannah's door. Emily felt a small, sharp pinch at the base of her heart. She barely knew Hannah, the new tenant who had moved in 3 weeks earlier. Hannah seemed polite, kind, soft-spoken, an early 30s woman who always looked like she was trying her best to make a new start. Emily never had a reason to distrust her, yet something that night made Emily's breath slow. Ryan reached Hannah's door and stopped. He stared at it for a moment, lifted his hand, and knocked softly, so softly it sounded almost secret. Emily felt the air leave her chest. She told herself there had to be a normal reason for this. A neighborly favor, a question, something harmless. But her mind didn't wait for explanations. It raced forward on its own, filling the silence with the fears she had tried to ignore for weeks. Hannah opened the door only part way. Emily saw nothing but a sliver of warm yellow light. Ryan stepped inside quickly. Then the door closed. Just like that, Emily felt frozen in place. The cold scarf in her hand seemed heavier, like it belonged to someone else. Her mind replayed what she saw in slow motion. Ryan hadn't looked around. He hadn't expected anyone to see him. His steps had been too quiet, his expression too tense. She swallowed hard, trying to convince herself she was overreacting, but her body betrayed her. Her hands shook. Her stomach tightened. All the questions she had pushed away during the past, returned with force. Why did he walk past their apartment without telling her? Why knock on another woman's door? Why go inside at night? Emily stepped back, forcing herself to breathe. She didn't want to cause a scene. She didn't want to accuse him of anything without knowing the truth. But she couldn't ignore how deeply the moment hurt. 1 second, just 1 second was enough to shift everything she thought. She understood about them. She turned around and walked upstairs. Her feet moved quickly, like her emotions were trying to catch up. When she entered their apartment, she closed the door quietly and leaned against it, wishing her heart would slow down. The living room felt 2 calm, warm lamps, soft blankets, all the little pieces of a life she had built with him. But every detail suddenly felt fragile. She sat on the couch, still holding the scarf, staring at the wall without really seeing anything. Her thoughts came in fast waves. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe he was helping her with something simple. Maybe she was letting her fears twist the truth. But then again, why had he been so distant lately? Why hadn't he looked at her the way he used to? Why did his hugs feel like someone trying to remember an old habit instead of someone holding the person they loved? Emily didn't want to think the worst. She had never been the jealous type. She believed relationships survived on trust, not suspicion. But trust required communication. And lately, communication felt like a door Ryan kept halfway closed. She waited 5 minutes, 10, 20. Every small sound in the hallway made her ears tense. Every minute without him returning made the silence heavier. She curled her knees close to her chest and tried to breathe through the panic quietly building inside her. She replayed the last few weeks in her mind-missed dates. Half answers, tired excuses, gentle smiles that didn't reach his eyes. She thought maybe he just needed space. She thought maybe he was stressed. She tried so hard not to take it personally. But seeing him step into another woman's apartment without telling her felt like a truth she never wanted to face. Her heart wasn't angry. It was scared. Scared of losing him. Scared of being replaced. Scared that the love she held so tightly had slipped away without her noticing. Emily rubbed her eyes, frustrated that tears sat at the edge. She didn't want to cry before hearing his explanation, but human hearts rarely wait for logic. They react first, reason later. She stood up, paced the room, then sat back down. Every few seconds, she looked at the door like she could make it open by sheer will. The longer he stayed away, the more her chest hurt. This wasn't like Ryan, not the Ryan she knew. Not the man who used to rush home just to tell her about his day. Not the man who used to kiss her forehead whenever she looked tired or sad. She missed that version of him. She didn't know when he faded away. Finally, footsteps echoed outside. Emily sat up straight, her pulse loud in her ears. The door opened slowly and Ryan stepped in. His eyes widened slightly when he saw her awake. He looked surprised, not guilty, not nervous, just surprised, and that almost hurt more. He wasn't expecting her to be waiting. He wasn't expecting to explain. Whatever he had been doing, he didn't think she would question it. Ryan brushed his hair back and closed the door behind him. "You're still up?" Emily held the scarf in her lap. "I went to get this from the car and saw you downstairs." His smile faded. A quiet, unreadable expression took its place. Something between caution and confusion. "Oh," he said softly. "I didn't think you'd see me." That was all he offered, no explanation, no details. Just a sentence that made the room feel colder. Emily's heart tightened. She wanted to ask everything: why he was there, what he was doing. Why he hadn't mentioned anything, but the words tangled in her throat. She wasn't ready to sound desperate. She wasn't ready to sound accusing. She needed to calm down before she spoke, or else her fear might come out in the wrong way. Ryan walked farther into the room, acting almost normal, but Emily could tell the air between them had changed. Whatever happened tonight had turned something inside her, like a page flipping in a book she didn't want to reach the end of. As she watched him move around the apartment, she realized something quietly heartbreaking. Even though he was right there, he felt far away, and for the first time since they started dating, Emily didn't know what the next hour would bring: comfort, honesty, or a truth she wasn't ready to hear. Either way, she knew one thing for certain. Tonight had opened a door she couldn't unsee, and tomorrow might change everything. Ryan stood in the living room as if he had stepped into a moment he didn't prepare for. Emily watched him closely, not because she wanted to judge him, but because she needed to understand him. Everything inside her felt unsteady. The scarf rested in her lap like a reminder of how the night had changed. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse him. She simply waited for him to speak, hoping he would remove the weight sitting on her chest. But Ryan didn't speak right away. He walked toward the kitchen, set down his keys, and rubbed the back of his neck the way he always did when he wasn't sure what to say. Emily knew that gesture well. It meant he was trying to decide between honesty and comfort. She wished he would choose honesty quickly, because every second of silence pushed her thoughts deeper into fear. Finally, she stood up. "Ryan," she whispered, "why were you in Hannah's room?" He froze. His shoulders tensed. He turned slowly, and the look in his eyes wasn't anger, it was worry. Not the kind that explodes, but the kind that holds back a truth it doesn't know how to deliver. I didn't expect you to see that, Kay said quietly. Emily held her breath. That's not an answer. Ryan walked toward her, stopping a few feet away, like he didn't trust himself to step closer. She asked for help, he said. She had a problem in her apartment she didn't know how to fix. She texted me earlier. I went down to check it. Emily blinked. Why didn't you tell me? That question landed between them like a fragile piece of glass. Ryan looked away, exhaling through his nose. Because lately, everything I say feels like it might upset you. I didn't want another argument. Emily's heart twisted. Ryan, we haven't even argued. We barely talk enough to argue. The silence that followed said more than either of them wanted to face. Ryan sat on the couch slowly, as if he carried something heavy on his back. Emily stayed standing, unsure whether to sit beside him or keep distance. The room felt too bright to open, like their emotions had no place to hide. Things haven't felt right, Ryan finally said. Not between us. I know you feel it too. Emily swallowed hard. She did feel it. She had felt it for weeks, maybe months, but she didn't want to admit it until now. She feared that admitting it would mean their love was weaker than she hoped. But tonight forced everything out of the shadows. You've been pulling away, she said, her voice soft but steady. And I keep wondering if I did something wrong. Ryan looked up quickly. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm the one who messed up. I should have talked to you instead of shutting down. Emily walked over to the couch and sat on the far edge, leaving space between them. Not because she didn't want to be near him, but because she needed to understand where they stood. She needed clarity before closeness. What's going on? She asked. Really? Not the half version. Not the safe version. I need the truth. Ryan nodded, staring at his hands. I've been overwhelmed. Work's been a lot. Family stuff too? I didn't want to add it to your plate. I know you worry easily, even when you try not to. I thought if I handled everything alone, you wouldn't feel the stress. Emily looked at him, hurt. Ryan, that's not how partnerships work. I can't be here for you if you don't let me in. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting her words sink in. When he opened them, they looked softer, less guarded. No, I didn't mean to shut you out. I just didn't know how to say I wasn't okay. Emily let out a slow breath. She believed him. Not because she wanted to, but because his voice carried a weight that didn't sound false. Still, the image of him entering Hannah's room lingered like a shadow. So Hannah just needed help. Yes, he said firmly. She had a leaking pipe under her sink. She panicked. She doesn't know anyone here yet. She asked if I could take a look. I shouldn't have gone without telling you. I know that. But it wasn't anything more. Emily studied his face. The sincerity in his voice didn't erase her pain, but it eased the sharpest edge of it. Still, she needed something more, something real to hold on to then. Why did it feel secret? She asked. Ryan swallowed hard. He didn't answer quickly. Because I've been distant, and you've been noticing. I didn't want you asking more questions I wasn't ready to answer. I thought helping her would be quick and simple. I didn't think it would turn into this. Emily looked down at her hands. Her voice trembled slightly. I don't care if you help someone. I care if I lose you without warning. That sentence changed everything. Ryan's expression broke, softening, collapsing, almost ashamed. He shifted closer, but slowly, giving her space to stop him. When she didn't move away, he took her hands gently, like he was afraid she might pull back. You're not losing me, he said. I know it feels like you are. I know I gave you reasons to think so, but I'm still here. Emily's eyes stung again, but she forced the tears back. She didn't want to cry before she understood the whole truth. Then show me. Don't just say it. Ryan nodded. I want to fix this. I want to rebuild whatever I broke. And tomorrow, I want you to meet Hannah with me. Not because I owe you proof, but because I want you to feel secure again. She'll tell you exactly what happened. Emily let the idea sink in. She didn't want drama. She didn't want accusations. But maybe clarity would bring peace. Maybe hearing it from another voice would ease what tonight had stirred in her. "Okay," she whispered. "Tomorrow." Ryan squeezed her hands lightly. "Thank you for giving me the chance to explain." Emily searched his face. The man in front of her wasn't perfect, but he was someone she loved deeply. Someone she believed wanted to do better. Someone who made mistakes without meaning to hurt her. And someone who finally, after weeks of silence, was speaking honestly again. They sat quietly for a moment, neither sure how to move forward. The distance between them didn't vanish overnight, but it wasn't growing anymore. It felt like the first step toward rebuilding something fragile but real. Ryan leaned back on the couch, tired. Emily hesitated, then rested her head on his shoulder. He let out a breath he had been holding, gently placing his hand over hers. The closeness wasn't perfect, but it was honest. It felt like two people choosing to stay, even when leaving might have been easier. "I'm sorry you had to see that," Ryan whispered. "I'm sorry we let things get this far," Emily replied, but beneath the apology was something hopeful. Quiet understanding that relationships survive not because they avoid difficult moments, but because they meet them with honesty as they sat together. The sound of the rain starting outside filled the silence. For the first time in weeks, the silence didn't feel like distance. It felt like healing. Still fragile, still uncertain, but healing. Emily knew tomorrow would matter. Meeting Hannah would matter. Talking again would matter. But tonight, all she needed was one thing: the feeling that she wasn't standing alone in her relationship anymore. And as Ryan held her hand a little tighter, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, a small spark of hope returning to her chest. A spark that told her their story wasn't ending tonight. It was simply entering a new chapter. The chapter where the truth finally had a place to breathe.